Never made it as a drummer for a big rock band, but I could beat on my notebook here all day long listening to my bumper music. Coach Mike here, Kidz and Sports on the Rant Radio Network. Thank you for joining me. Get your pen out, write down the numbers. You got two choices. 855-693-4897 is one of them. That's 855-693-4897. Or you can call 855-969-RANT. 855-969-RANT. That happens to be 7268 on the end. You might want to call me today, especially if you're a parent that's frustrated with your youth sports out there. We're going to be talking about responsibility. I'm going to be talking. I hope you join me. I'd like to have more than me. All my cohorts are out busy doing things today, so I'm here going solo, but that's okay. I've got lots for you. And again, we're going to be talking about responsibility, and especially how it applies to youth sports. We're going to move outside of that a little bit too. But at the same time, of course, being a coach, you got to do your homework before you can listen to this show, and that's checking out the website, www.kidzandsports.com. That's Kidz, and as in Nancy, sports.com. For those of you that are challenged by the funny spelling, you can also go to yourkidsandsports.com, spelled out like it sounds. Take my poll, this week's poll. By golly, where did I put it up there? And it had to do about whose responsibility is your child's success. Who is responsible for that? Is that the parents? Is that the coaches and teachers? Is it the administrators? Or what about your kid? Could it be their responsibility? By golly, that's something we're going to talk about today. So make sure you check that out. Sign up on the right-hand side. You'll see that you can sign up for my newsletter, get weekly posts, little news bits now and then. And you often get a little early heads up on who's coming on the show when they're coming. Once the fall gets around here, my guest list will jump up. Summer's a hard time to get people sometimes. Okay, I know I haven't worked as hard as I should. What are we going to talk about today? Well, responsibility. And why am I going there? I'm going there because of the past several shows we've been doing. In and out, you've been hearing us talking about quite a bit about team, about your attitude as being a team player, about college scholarships and the path to getting those, and is it worth getting them? Is it worth the effort? It might be for many, but for many more that don't get it, who knows? I'm sure there's a lot of disappointed people out there. If you're a disappointed person, you're somebody I want to hear from. Tell us your story. You thought you were going to get your son or daughter a college scholarship, and all of a sudden it wasn't there. Okay? Who was responsible for that? And it sort of goes in with what we're seeing in our society right now. Everybody wants to blame somebody for everything that goes wrong. How do we get to that point? How do we get? I know part of it is money. I think there's a lot of people out there that are disingenuous, that are not sincere. Maybe they've had a loss, but right away they're going beyond where they should go, and they're looking for somebody with deep pockets, somebody to sue. I guess they figure if they get the money, it's going to make them feel better. I try to operate. I like money too, don't get me wrong. But I try to operate from that old saying, store your treasure up in heaven, where neither moth can eat or destroy, or where the thieves cannot steal. If you store it up on earth, it can go just as quickly as it comes. And it's still true today, and we forget about that. I'm going to talk a little bit. My friend Cindy Bristow has been a guest on this show a number of times. Her newsletter today especially, her last two, she had a two-part blog about why there's 5 signs that she thinks we've lost the meaning of team. And I couldn't find my newsletter from last week or the first post. I hope I didn't delete. I have to go back up and get it. But she had a couple more parts of it today. And she talks about a number of things there. Talks about team jumping. Talks about being me player. Are you a me player or are you a team player? And in the first part, she had a story about the difference between a group and a team, and she used the analogy of an elevator. And again, I lost my first one, but the gist of it mainly, if you were in an elevator and it got stuck between floors, what are you going to do? What is your reaction to that? Are you going to panic? Are you going to, right away, you start making, well, whose fault is this? Who's going to pay for this? Or are you going to figure out how to get out of that situation? And you can easily see how that can expand into being the work of a team. And a team succeeds when they all pull together. What is the acronym for team? We like together, everyone achieves more. But today, and you've heard it over a couple of shows, what's the big thing? I know in the softball world, and I think it is in other sports, some of the other sports is too, with travel ball and stuff, is not winning games, but going to showcases, showcasing me. College coaches want talented players. They want to see skills, but if you talk to most college coaches, they also want team players. And how do we recognize team players? And this goes back a little bit to responsibility. Do you honor your commitments when you sign up for a team? I know in the case of our family, there was one team that my daughter left before, usually before the end of the commitment. Before in softball, there's generally like 2 seasons of commitment. You have your winter ball side, and this is for when you get into travel ball and stuff. You have like from late August to December, early January. And then a lot of your older high school teams older travel ball teams, they might keep practicing, but they sort of break up a little bit there because they can't play games both high school and travel at the same time. So a lot of them sort of go dark, or they might practice once a month. Some of them practice still on a weekly basis until the high school season's over. Then that's when the real season, that's when all the titles, the national championships. So your next commitment is from April or May to August, and when a team goes to nationals. There was one team that we left in that time frame because they were getting ready to go. We were in 14s, 14 age and under, and the team was getting ready to go to Wisconsin to qualify for a tournament. My daughter was not being used. She was on the bench, and that by itself was not a reason for us to bail. And there were a couple of times where Jessica was not the star player, would not, get a significant amount of playing time. We still would honor our commitment. But this particular team brought in another pitcher who, there's other issues after that. They actually lost a good pitcher they had because of the way the coach chose to use the new pitcher. But the assistant coach, who had been on one of my daughter's earlier travel teams and we respected greatly, he came over to me. We were at the state tournament, and he came over and said, Mike, I'd go ahead and look for another team. He says he's not going to use Jess. So when we told the head coach that we were going to leave, because I didn't have $2,000 or $3,000 to find a way for her to go to Wisconsin to sit on the bench. I mean, it's hard to do that, but that's something you sort of got to do as part of the, part of your commitment. So I probably would have done it otherwise if I had not been given that heads up. And so at that point we decided to leave, and the head coach's response was, she's on the team. Well, so what? She wasn't growing anything. She wasn't gaining by being there. Her first travel team in 12 and under she was on, she was not one of the main starters. As a matter of fact, when we joined the team, we knew she would pitch very little, almost not at all, until the winter. And then when she didn't pitch in the winter very much because they had so many pitchers, then we looked for another team at the end of the winter side, and that's when we took that break and we found another team there. That was a little bit different. But she, even though she wasn't getting a lot of playing time on that team, she still learned a lot because they ran very good practices, and all the players were incorporated in such a way that they were all involved and they were all learning. And this other older team did not do that, not nearly as well. Now, the issue of how coaches use their players is a whole different one, and I'm sure a lot of players would be less likely to be jumping teams like they are if coaches would do a few things differently. And when it comes to winning the big tournaments, the coach is going to put the best players on the field or on the court that they've got. That's what it goes to when you're winning a tournament. But that doesn't mean the players on the bench are less important. And that's a hard subject for parents to learn sometimes, for players to learn. But how to fill your role if you're a bench player? How do you show that player they are important? Because there's a couple things that could happen. One of those starters could get hurt, and now suddenly you're needed. But not only that, and Cindy talks about it really nice in her newsletter here. Let me just find where the one part here I thought was excellent. She was talking about a couple of really of top players, and she said, would they, you hear these names, but it's not just them that was important is because they were pushed by the other players that were behind them. So yes, you heard about them, but you didn't hear about the other ones. I'm just trying to see where I didn't circle that particular one. Here we go. It's if you watch any, and I always tell my girls this on the team, if you watch any college softball game, those girls are on the dugout fence. If they're not in the game, they're still on the dugout fence cheering, making noise, rooting on their other players. And, they're not quiet that often. They're having a lot of fun. And it says, let's see, you don't see the bench players sitting back in the dugout complaining about how they think they should be playing. Instead, they're slammed up against the fence, cheering and screaming at the top of their lungs. And the players to get to be on the field, hear their teammates, and work that much harder knowing that they don't get to play. Sure, you know the name Ricketts and Terang and Chamberlain, but for every player you know on the University of Oklahoma softball team, there are 3 you've never heard of. But these unknown players worked just as hard as the stars, got up just as early, and tried just as much. In fact, they helped to push the stars to work even harder to keep their positions. Coach Mike here. Kids in Sports will be back after this break to talk more about responsibility.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you're a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
We are the Three Guys Rant
with Arvin, Mike, and Phil.
coming to you on the Rant Radio Network every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can call us at 855-69 The Three Guys.
It's not the Three Guys. This is why you should turn in, because one has Tourette's. The other one's illiterate.
You really should listen in. You never know what's going to happen.
855-69 3 Guys. G-U-Y-S and the number 3, not the.
Faces for radio, voices for the deaf.
Look forward to talking to you.
Hey, I'm audio candy. I don't know about you guys.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on RantRadioNetwork.com.
DM Narc Radio Show is now airing on the Rant Radio Network. You've heard the Three Guys Rant refer to us as the Clam Chowder Power Hour. Now we get to bring our New England humor over to Los Angeles. We'll be airing Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, and we'll cover everything from local to national politics and news. Guess what? We're uncensored too. I'm Dave. Join me and Nick Friday on the Rant Radio Network.
We're the Brothers Bear Podcast Live, and I'm your host, Sanj, and I'm always joined by
Edgar, Carlos Madrono, and this is a show where we talk about comics, movies, TV, video games, stand-up, music, and many more geeky things. Catch us live on Rant Radio Network on Mondays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
That's another commercial in the bag.
Coach Mike here. Kids and Sports on the Rant Radio Network. 855-969-RANT or 855-693-4897. Start dialing now if you've got a comment or question about responsibility. My subject for today, and I'm going to put it out in a couple different ways here. I'm going to highlight 4 groups of people. Again, I have my poll on the website, www.kidsandsports.com. My poll for this week basically says, who is responsible for your child's success? Is it parents? Is it teachers and coaches? Is it your child? Now, that changes to a degree depending on whether you're talking about a 7-year-old or a 17-year-old, doesn't it? To a degree. Let's look at a couple of those groups of people. Let's look at the normal people involved in our youth sports life and see where the responsibility arises. What are they responsible for? And that'll help you think about it. Go ahead and answer the poll. Go ahead and check out and vote on the poll before you hear what I have to say. But let's take a look at it. Let's start with the umpires or the referees. Let's start with those guys. Obviously, they're not responsible for your child's success, are they? What are they responsible for? They are responsible for the game, for a contest that's going to be played, all right? They are responsible for showing up on time, acting professionally about going about their job. They are the authority of whatever sporting contest you have, whether it's softball, baseball, basketball, football. They are the authority. I think one thing we can all be more responsible is make it a point to treat the guys in blue or the zebras with a little more respect than we do lately. So I'm going to just throw that in there real quick, and that's a topic we'll get on another show, big time. But these guys are responsible for making sure the game proceeds as scheduled in a safe manner, and especially when it comes to youth sports. If the umpire, and we'll take a softball game, if the umpire sees something that could be a safety hazard, then he has an obligation or responsibility to not allow the game to proceed until that is taken care of. Now, we can argue all day long whether they go overboard on some things. That's a whole societal argument on how much we babysit or how much we try to protect ourselves with laws and everything. That applies in youth sports too. But these guys, before every high school game, the umps come over, they're checking your batting helmets, they're checking the bats to make sure you got legal bats. If a helmet has a screw loose, they're going to let you know about it. If it has 2 screws loose, you can't use it. If it's missing screws, doesn't have a face mask, if the face mask is cracked, can't use it. That's their responsibility. When I was coaching in Newport Harbor, our JV had to play down the street at a middle school at a field down there. When we first got down there my first year, there was I don't know if they'd moved a gate or what the deal was, but here was a fence post, I think about 3 or 4 feet or 5 feet maybe from first base, just standing there in the middle of nowhere. The umpire wasn't going to let him play the game because that potentially could have been a major safety hazard. I think they got it resolved and they were able to play it, but also with the warning of if that's not removed by the next game, we're not going to play. That's the referee's responsibility, is making sure the game proceeds on time, making sure they should be professional. They should be dressed. They shouldn't dress properly. They shouldn't be looking like slobs. Shouldn't come to the game drunk. We've heard those stories before, right? Nowhere in their responsibility does it says that the umpire is going to be perfect and make every call right. That's not a matter of responsibility. It's a responsibility to do the best job he or she is capable of doing. With that being said, they're going to make some mistakes. That's not about responsibility. I care more. I want the umpires to make all the calls right, don't get me wrong. But I really care more about how that umpire treats me as a coach, because I care about how I treat him as an umpire or her. I try to make it a point to always give them respect. But I want some respect back too for what I'm doing or for what my responsibility is. So there's the umpires. That's their response. Their responsibility is the game and how that game proceeds. Okay? So let's check them off the list. They are not responsible for your son or daughter's success. Now, I'm sure out there you can say sometime you're going to have some coach because they struck your son or daughter out. Oh, you just hurt their chances at a college scholarship because that was a terrible call on that third strike. Come on. Now, obviously, most parents don't go there, but I think I've seen a couple over the years that probably would go there, okay? As silly as that might sound, there's a few of them that are going there. Let's go to the next one. How about administrators? Now, I didn't put administrators on the poll, but how about administrators? The principal of your school. Are they responsible for your child's success? If we ask, do they contribute to your child's success, I would say yes. But are they responsible for it? No. I don't think so. Their responsibility is to run the school. Their responsibility is to take the resources that they have at hand and oversee. They're an administrative position. That means they might know who your son or daughter is, but they're not going to be following them around all day. It's not their job to make sure their grades are up. It's their job to make sure that there's a teacher in their classroom. It's their job to make sure that there's resources available, whether it's books, computers, whatever, to oversee somebody that takes care of that, to make sure there are resources in place and a schedule in place so that your son or daughter has the opportunities to succeed. So let's check administrator off the list. In my book, they're not responsible for my daughter's success. They might be a piece of it. They might be a piece of that puzzle, but they are not responsible for it. So let's take the next step down, coaches and teachers. Now, these are the people that are going to interact with your son or daughter on a daily basis, or at the very least on a weekly basis. How responsible are they for your son or daughter's success? And I know in this, as a matter of fact, the next break, I should have looked it up earlier. I'll look up. I know of a case several years back down in the Newport Beach area where there was a parent that sued a coach because he didn't play his kid enough and thereby cost him his college scholarship. He hurt his chances to get a college scholarship. You know how long it took that judge to throw that case out of court? If reality were to be known, I would suspect that the judge probably had already, it would have been officially thrown out before the actual trial date if that was possible. The coach is not responsible for your son or daughter's success. I tell my players that every time. If I don't want the players looking to me as being the solution to their life. I want to have a positive impact in their life. I love being a part of their lives. Don't get me wrong, I love coaching. All the other things I do in my life, my web design stuff, graphic design stuff, any other jobs I work, everything I do is I jokingly say, but it's sort of serious, is it's to support my coaching habit. Because I love to coach. I love to have an impact on these kids' lives. And I hope it is always positive. I know it won't be every time, but I try to make it the best I can do. My responsibility as a coach is to provide opportunity for your son or daughter. And I do that in the form of organizing the practice, making sure we got the proper equipment we need as much as possible. It was sort of tough this year. We didn't have a pitching machine. But to do what I can within my capabilities to make sure that we have a practice to give your son or daughter, in softball, to give your daughter an opportunity to become a better player. And the one thing I point out to the team every year, and I will continue to this, is one of the things I see kids do, I see even teenagers, is they too often want to compare themselves to their classmates, to their teammates. And if they're not as good as that other teammate, if that's the comparison is made in the wrong way, that becomes a negative, because now it's a rejection for them. Why am I not as good as her? Now, there's nothing wrong with idolizing a better player and saying, I'd like to become like her, and setting that as a goal. But I always point out, your job is to become the best player you can be, to be the best Susie you can be, or Judy, or Amanda, whatever your name is, to be the best player you can be, to be a better you tomorrow than you are today. And that's what my responsibility is to give them that opportunity. But ultimately, I cannot make sure that they work as hard as they should. I can't control them. When they leave that field, I can't control what they do. I'm not their babysitter. And I let them know that I am not your babysitter. I generally will not even spend a lot of time with them in their warm-ups. They have a warm-up procedure. They don't need me out there to hold their hand and do their stretching and go take their jog and everything else. They know what they're supposed to do. I might do that the first week of the season to establish the routine we want to have. But after that, that's on them, and that's on my senior leadership. The players know what they need to do. They don't need me to hold their hand. I see some coaches, one good friend of mine, he still likes to babysit them in their stretching. I say, when it'd be great if they were 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds. I would say 14-year-olds don't need the coach to babysit them once they set the routine. Teach those kids some responsibility. That's what my job is, to help them become a better player. And part of that, I believe, I should teach them some responsibility. And you do that now, you can tell them about responsibility all you want, but you need to give them opportunities where you are putting responsibility on their shoulders at a level you feel they're capable of handling, and let them deal with that responsibility. And this is the value of youth sports, is failure. Dealing with failure is learning responsibility. Dealing with failure is a way to learn responsibility. Because if you failed at something, why did you fail? If you look at it that way, we get too hung up on, I failed, poor me, I'm not as good as so-and-so, poor me. We look at it the wrong way. I'm going to give you a different way to look at it when we get back from the break. Coach Mike here, Kidz and Sports on the Rant Radio Network. We'll be back in just a minute.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
TheTicketSurgeon.com. Reach us at 855-WIN-4-199.
Did you get caught speeding, texting while driving, or doing anything else you weren't supposed to do?
Give us a call. Don't miss work. Don't lose out on the money. Don't get any more points. What about your insurance? Let us fight for you. TheTicketSurgeon.com at 855-WIN-4-199. $199.
Welcome to the Monster Marketing Group, your one-stop shop for all your marketing needs. Anything you need to make that marketing and advertising campaign stand out, we're your people. Concepts, design, production, social media, anything that you can dream up, we're going to make happen for you. And we can do it in a very quick turnaround. Please give us a call at 888-49-MONSTER.
Well, that was a quick break. Hardly got my water and Jay, many Christmas. We better go out and get some more sponsors. If you want to sponsor Kids in Sports, please, please, please give me a call. Send me an email, coachmike@kidsinsports.com, or give me a call on my business line at 877-554-5952. And let's sit down and talk about how you can be a part of this show as a sponsor. Promote your business. I've got a lot of neat ways to do that. Looking at failure, how do we do that? Coach Mike here, Kids in Sports on the Rant Radio Network. Too many times our young players look at failure through the wrong prism. It can be a tragedy for them. It's the end of the world. And they miss other opportunities. And that's where I as a coach come in to try to help guide them in a different direction. Parents do this. This is your calling too. Don't just hand your child a solution. Get them to think what the solution might be. Get them to understand that there's other possibilities there. Okay? That will help them grow stronger and help them to change that thought that the first time something goes, oh, I'm a failure, oh my, look at me. And I've had those days. I've had those days as an adult. Even as positive I am, there's been some days where I'm sitting there, I would get so disappointed or so discouraged about a chain of events, and sometimes I would almost want to give up. We all get to that. Well, by the time we get to be an adult, it's sort of a little more understandable, I think. But no, our children don't have the experience that we've had, and a lot of them don't understand that. Let me look at this. They should treat every situation as a new opportunity, even a negative situation. There's more opportunities come out of failing than there does out of success. If I hit a home run, what did I learn from that? Oh, I picked the right pitch and I swung hard and I hit the ball. Did I realize that maybe the ball went 10 feet farther because it was less humid that day? Or because of the temperature, or because of the wind? Or maybe I was just feeling a little more energetic that day for whatever reason. I was in better shape. But if I strike out, did I chase a bad pitch? Did the pitcher fool me? Did the pitcher outthink me? Was the pitcher that good and I just wasn't prepared for it? So here's my job as a coach, to help to instill a different way of thinking in my players, to get them to realize that just because you failed now, that failure is temporary. It doesn't have to be permanent. We make it permanent sometimes. It doesn't have to be. It's how we handle it that chooses whether or not it becomes something that sticks with us or something that we learn from. So I'm taking me off the list. I'm taking the coaches and teachers. Teachers are the coach in the classroom. Same thing. The teachers can teach your child all the history, all the math, all the spelling, everything they need to know, but they can't make them do their homework. They can only give them a bad grade if they don't. Teachers are very limited, especially since we took spanking out of schools, right? Now I know I'm going to get a bunch of emails. Oh, Coach, what are you talking about? You know what? I got a lot of swats when I was in school. Mr. Christine in the 5th grade at Payne Training Elementary in Arizona. Me and the Board of Education became very well acquainted. Okay? But I tell you what, there was a way that you were punished back then. SWATs were not a bad thing. It was not beating me up. Okay? And I know that a lot of the laws we have now in regards to swatting is because there's certain people that cannot control themselves, and they go way beyond what it was ever meant to be. Okay? But even without that, what can our teachers do? They can give your child a poor grade. They can call the parents. They can give them detention. They can expel them from school. I've seen some teenagers in the last few years, and it just boggles my mind that getting detention, getting sent to Saturday school or whatever it might be is almost a badge of honor for them. Where did this kind of thinking come from? 855-693-4897. Help me out here. If you've got a solution on that one, please give me a call and educate me. I'm all ears. I never wanted to get in trouble. I managed to do it, probably more often than I should, but that surely wasn't my goal. I never got up in the morning and said, boy, let me go see how I can get in trouble today. Let me go see if I can get expelled today. That's how can I get me another F on my report card? That was never my way of thinking. I can't believe that it's anybody's way of thinking. Coaches and teachers, are we a part of your child's success? Yes, I hope I am. I think every teacher, every coach out there wants to be a part of your success. Now, there might be some coaches out there, and I don't want to knock travel or club ball in any sport, but there are some coaches over there that pat themselves a little too much on the back when those kids get a scholarship. Again, they had a hand in it, but some of them take way more credit than probably is deserved. So now let's go down to the next on the list. How about you, the parents? Parents, are you responsible for your child's success? Listen carefully. Here's the answer. No, you are not. You are a parent. You are responsible for raising your child, for teaching them to be a good person, for teaching them faith, for teaching them hope, for teaching them the values you want to instill in them. But the bottom line is, at some point, they've got to make their own decisions. And I'll go to that famous verse that we all know so well, Proverbs 22:6. And for many years, even I misquoted this in the wrong way. It says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart from it. Some translators say when they're old, they will return to it. What by definition does that imply? What by definition does that imply? By definition, that says they're going to leave what you teach them for. They're going to do their own thing. Some more, some less. There's some kids that grow up in the church and they stay solid in the church and they become great family husbands or wives, and it's like they were absolutely perfect people. And then there's others that might end up taking the exact opposite path. You always hear the story. Of course, they love to put it out there if it's a pastor's kid, how bad they are. Let's say they go out and commit a crime. They go to jail. And sometime they come out and they realize, I did know the right way. My parents taught me the right way. The child is the one that chose to get away from it. The bottom line is nobody is ultimately responsible for somebody else's actions. We've gotten away with it from that a little bit in our society. We keep wanting to make everybody responsible. We want to blame, especially when things go bad, we want to blame somebody else. That coach didn't play my son enough. This coach over here, taught my daughter how to do this wrong. No, is the person that wants to succeed that is responsible for their success. Period. End of story. Parents, you're the biggest part of their lives. You should have the biggest input. Why? Because you're with them, hopefully on a daily basis from the time they're born. Okay? Coaches and teachers, you're with them on a daily basis for a certain period of their lives. But there's only one person that is with your son or daughter 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for their whole lives, and that's them. Are we encouraging them to take the responsibility to succeed? In the case of being an athlete, are they taking the responsibility of making themselves better? If they want to get a college scholarship, they're not going to get it just by sending more letters to more coaches. That might help. They're not going to get it just by being on a certain team. That might help. But they're going to get it because they work harder than somebody else at developing their skills. They spend more time learning their game. Who was it? I think it was Peyton Manning I heard about. And one of the quarterbacks, they said, that was just unbelievable in the number of hours that they would watch film of opposing defenses before a game to learn what they were going to be up against. And I'm sure there's a lot of the quarterbacks do it, but the most successful ones do it more. The most successful people do it more. They do the things they need to succeed more than those that don't. Why am I not more successful than I am? Because I probably goofed off more than I should have. I watch too much TV. Love those Lifetime movies. And there's sometimes I just can't get my lazy bottom out of the chair and go do something I should be doing that might make me some more money so that I can buy my wife a nicer present, or I can do something more for somebody else to help somebody. But I'll get stuck on this. I can't blame. Should I blame the people that made that TV for putting that in front of my face? Teach your son or daughter that they are successful they are responsible for their success. And the more they understand that, the more they will succeed. Just like little Deanna last week, 11 years old. And that young lady, I could tell, is one of those people that realizes, I want to do this. I've got to be the one to go do it. Okay? I've got to be the one that needs to go get good grades. If I want to play in college, you got to have the good grades. Now, that brings up an issue, and this is a neat one. I happened to be looking through the web, and I came across the Responsibility Project, apparently sponsored by a large insurance company. And they had some interesting blogs on there, and I want to talk about a couple of those blogs because it fits right into what I'm talking about today. Coach Mike here, Kids and Sports on the Rant Radio Network. We'll be back with you in just a minute.
Looking for a delicious, fresh family meal that's ready when you are and easy on your budget? Welcome to Piara Pizza. We make our pizzas with handmade dough, 100% real cheese, and tomato sauce blended with our own spices. Nothing is ever frozen. We always have large pepperoni and cheese pizzas fresh and waiting for you for only $5. Or choose one of our specialty pizzas. We have veggie, meat lovers, supreme, and Hawaiian. Add an order of our amazing hot wings, cheesy bread, or breadsticks. Our locations are ultra-modern, ultra-clean, and open 7 days a week. Visit any one of our locations today, or check us out on the web at www.piarapizza.com. Piara Pizza. Fresh, hot, and ready for you when you come in. Stop in for your Piara Pizza today.
We're the Brothers Bear Podcast Live, and I'm your host, Sanch, and I'm always joined by
Edgar, Carlos Medrano, and this is a show where we talk about comics, movies, TV, video games, stand-up, music, and many more geeky things. Catch us live on Rant Radio Network on Mondays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
That's another commercial in the back.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on RantRadioNetwork.com.
DM Narc Radio Show is now airing on the Rant Radio Network. You've heard the three guys Rant refer to us as the Clam Chowder Power Hour. Now we get to bring our New England humor over to Los Angeles. We'll be airing Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, and we'll cover everything from local to national politics and news. Guess what? We're uncensored too. I'm Dave. Join me and Nick Friday on the Rant Radio Network.
3 balls, 2 strikes, the pitch. Swing it.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
Almost an hour done here. I make myself a pretty good guest sometimes. Now, actually, I got a lot more coming up, and I'm working on my guest schedule. A lot of people are doing summer camps right now. But Coach Mike here, me, myself, and I, all three of me here today. And you know what? I feel like giving away some of those custom lineup cards. So the first coach that can call me this morning at 855-969-RANT, I'll give you 25 custom lineup cards for your team, your softball or baseball team. So give me a call. I want to know, what do you do to teach your players responsibility? What do you do to teach them about team? Parents, what are you doing when you jump teams? What are you doing when you don't honor a commitment? Are you teaching your child responsibility? And I know a lot of parents that I've talked to over the years that they tell their son or daughter, if you choose to go play for a certain team or a certain sport, that here's the commitment time, whether it's August or June or May, whatever it is, you're not going to quit until that's done. So if you decide you want to do something else, you finish your first period there, your first commitment, whatever it was, you finish that, and then if you want to try something else, you can do that. What is that teaching them? There is a response, there's a commitment there. When you say, I'm going to do this, you're going to do it. You're going to do it to the best of your ability. Sort of like happiness is a choice. Coach Mike at KidsandSports.com, KIDZ, N as in Nancy, sports.com. That's my email address. I do answer all emails I get, but if you want to get me during the show, you got to call 855-969-RANT. Otherwise, I can't hear you. And again, 25 custom lineup cards to the first baseball or softball coach that can call in and tell me what you're doing to teach responsibility to your players. What is part of responsibility? Part of responsibility is the grades. If a player doesn't have the grades to play and they're ineligible, whose fault was that? Unfortunately, sometimes we blame the teachers. Oh, it's the teacher's fault. That teacher failed me. She didn't like me. He wasn't fair with me. Did you turn in your homework? Well, no. Even at the college level, I was taking classes last year at Westwood College before I graduated, and I had a conversation with one of the professors there, one of the instructors, and some of the students had complained about his teaching style. There were some things he could have done better, obviously. Any other human, there's always something we can do better. But the one that he would talk about, the left, he says a student would come up to him and say, do you know what grade I'm getting for this quarter? Yeah, 0. Well, why is that? Have you turned anything yet? No. what do you expect to get? What do we expect to get? Where do we get people? At what place in society do we get people that think you walk into class, you start with an A, and then it goes down based on what you don't do? I don't know. I mean, that's got to be what some of these people are thinking. Gee, I get an A for showing up because I'm so good looking and I'm so brilliant. Especially teenagers. Teenagers are the smartest kids on earth. Their parents are the dumbest people on earth. But it's funny, the older the kids get, the smarter the parents get. The older the kids get, the smarter the parents get. I love doing a clinic because when I go out and do a clinic for somebody, there's always some of the coaches there that were teaching the kids the right things. And even when they teach the right things, there's always one parent that for some reason thinks that coach isn't doing it right. And I love it when whether it's me coming out or when somebody else, I'll actually bring a coach to do a clinic for my girls on my teams, and they come out and they do a certain drill or they teach a certain technique that I've been teaching. It suddenly gives me more credibility. And some of those players and some of those parents say, wow, oh, they were doing it right. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. It's amazing how people can get locked in. You know, these players sometimes will get locked into the first coach they've got. They love that coach. And my guest a couple weeks ago explained sort of that. You know, we get that first coach that they happen to like, and all of a sudden every coach after that has to battle for recognition or credibility from that first coach. It's like anything, if they teach anything differently than what the kid did to start with and what the first coach taught them, they've got to be wrong. They got to be wrong. And it, you know, why do we not look with open eyes and see maybe there's more than one way to get the job done? So getting good grades is a responsibility that our children need to learn. Some of them get it. Some of them work really hard to do so. I saw this website I mentioned before the break, Responsibility Project. Liberty Mutual, looks like, is the insurance company that sponsored this. The blog I'm looking at, I believe it said it was 2010 by, April 26, 2010 by Kathy McManus. The debate over disqualifying basketball teams with low grades. Should college basketball teams that graduate less than 60% of their players as a result of failing grades, notice that, as a result of failing grades, be banned from playing in the NCAA tournament? I've never heard this one before, but I think I would probably tend to vote yes on that one. Would banning teams result in better academic performances? And in a commentary written for ESPN.com, U.S. Secretary of Education Arne Duncan argues yes, making a case for putting the student back into student-athlete. Secretary Duncan, who grew up playing basketball on Chicago's South Side, say he doesn't understand why a small number of programs that seem largely indifferent to the academic success of their student-athletes continue to be rewarded with opportunities for postseason glory. The bar needs to be raised. It's time to start holding coaches and institutions more accountable for the academic outcomes of their athletes. Now, that statement there, I do have a little bit of a problem with. And I wrote out some opportunities because what is the problem we have here? And this goes back to who's responsible for the grades of those athletes. Was it the coach recruiting a low-grade athlete just because that athlete was a superstar? Is that what caused the problem? If the athlete should not have been admitted to the institution or should not be eligible, they struggle with grades all along, then I would put more responsibility on the coach for that issue. I would put more responsibility on the coach for that issue. Was the athlete slacking off once they got their scholarship or once they made the team in college Is it the athlete that decided to go out and party and not pay attention to their grades? Coach is telling them, hey, you got to get your grades up. Got to keep this level. If the athlete went to, who's responsible? Why should the coach be responsible there? Now, if it comes to a point where the athlete had actually failed classes or their GPA was too low to be eligible, and the coach, pulled some strings or got to get somebody to, change a grade to raise it, then yes, then I'll put it back on the coach again. But there's still, the athlete needs to share in that responsibility as well. The one other opportunity or the one other possibility that I see where I would not agree with this statement is the athlete trying the best they can. Are they trying to do the right thing? Are they studying? Are they trying to be a good student? And they're just not that smart, super smart kid. And I know a big example of that, of a very well-known person in the softball world. She came out and told my girls she had a 2.3, or I think she said she finally got her GPA up to 2.69. She was just never a very good student. But if you saw her today, this person is very successful. She's doing very well. And she makes a big impact on a number of young ladies' lives by her coaching and what she teaches the girls when she's doing clinics and stuff. So I do think our education system needs to find, how can we say that? We need to find a little way to realize that it's not just the grade that makes the decision on whether that student is successful or not, or whether that student did their job, or whether they learned. Maybe some students are just bad at taking tests. Some of them try very hard and they just struggle on it. Should they be punished because of that? No. No, absolutely not. Now, I love it because there's those people out there, and where'd my mouse go here? I know it goes all over so fast sometimes. Let's get it up here. Oh, I can't get over to that window now. I'll get there. I looked up a little search here about you always hear about people that were successful and they never graduated. Let's see, every generation, this is from Business Insider, March of this year, the most successful new college dropouts. Let's see, every generation has its college dropout heroes. The baby boom had Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Paul Allen, and Michael Dell. Generation X had people like Dig founder Kevin Rose, Napster Sean Fanning, and blogger, creator, and former Twitter CEO Evan Williams. Generation Y, i.e. people under 30, has plenty of stars too, including that guy who started Facebook. Okay? High-profile people like Peter Thiel are starting programs to encourage them, offering money and support for those who want to skip higher education and get right down to business. Sounds pretty glamorous. Oh, man, I can skip college and go get some money, and I'm going to be a millionaire before you know it. Nonetheless, most dropouts actually end up worse off, earning 80% less than a college graduate and significantly more likely to be unemployed. In the end, it takes a special breed of person to make it big without a degree. And some of those dropouts never even made it to college. Okay? But you got to remember that. Just sort of like we talked about a few weeks ago with athletic scholarships, those are the exceptions to the rule. Coach Mike here. Talk responsibility. We've got an hour under the belt. We'll be back for the second hour in the Rant Radio Network coming up.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on RantRadioNetwork.com.
are the Three Guys Rant
with Arvin, Mike, and Phil.
Coming to you on the Rant Radio Network every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can call us at 855-69 The Three Guys.
It's not the Three Guys. This is why you should turn in, because one has Tourette's, the other one's illiterate.
You really should listen in. You never know what's going to happen.
855-69-3-GUYS, G-U-Y-S, and the number 3, not the.
Faces for radio, voices for the deaf.
Look forward to talking to you.
Hey, I'm audio candy. I don't know about you guys.
TheTicketSurgeon.com reaches at 855-WIN-4-199.
Did you get caught speeding, texting while driving, or doing anything else you weren't supposed to do?
Give us a call. Don't miss work. Don't lose out on the money. Don't get any more points. What about your insurance? Let us fight for you. TheTicketSurgeon.com at 855-WIN-4-199.
3 balls, 2 strikes, the pitch. Swing and a
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
Thank my good friend Dan Malone for that beautiful bumper music. I just love it. I've actually had requests for it. Believe it or not, it's pretty cool. Coach Mike here, Kids in Sports on the Rant Radio Network. Thank you for joining me. Hope you'll give me a call, 855-693-4897. Coaches, I want to hear from you. What do you do to teach your players responsibility? What do you do to teach your maybe sometimes you got to teach the parents too. Teach your players responsibility. Being a team in a team sport, takes some responsibility there. It's how you're thinking. There's a discipline. I tell you, there's just so much to go into it. Second hour here, Kids in Sports. Check out my website, Coach Mike at kidsinsports.com. KIDZ and is a NancySports.com. Take the poll on the website, and I hope you'll go over to the right side there on the front page, home page, and sign up for my newsletter. Get a little special offers for you now and then. If you want to call in, 855-693-4897, tell me your story and responsibility. I do have 25 custom lineup cards for a baseball or softball team. First one that calls in. Go back to mention in the first hour, Cindy Bristol, Softball Excellence, softballexcellence.com. Really encourage you to, even if you're not a softball team, you might want to check out her website because she puts a lot of good stuff on there that apply to other sports as well. And her 2-part article on signs that we've lost the meaning of team is a prime example of this. Part team, and she even talks about another sport. And I don't know if my guest a few weeks ago mentioned he was a hockey coach. Say softball isn't the only sport that's dealing with the issue of overcharged travel teams and lack of skill development at the younger levels. What does Coach Mike always say? Teach first, win later. USA Hockey had to curb the creation of elite super teams, so they stopped holding a Pee Wee National Championship. Finally, they began discouraging younger players from full ice games and instead encouraged them to play other sports. Wow, what do we say? What do we say a few weeks ago about that? This astonishing shift was triggered by the fact that USA Hockey realized kids introduced to hockey weren't sticking with it. That by age 9, 43% had quit hockey altogether. We were talking when VJ Stanley was on a few weeks ago. We're talking about age 12, where what is it, 60 or 70% of kids quit playing sports at age 12. 43% here by age 9 stop playing hockey. Hockey's one of those, man. I think once you start playing it, it's like addicting, but even there, some burnout. We certainly don't want this to happen in softball, so we need to pay attention now to making our youth programs fun and developmental. Hear what Cindy said there? We need to pay attention now to making our youth programs fun and developmental. And that's something we're forgetting about that. Coaches, you are letting down on your responsibility to teach players. If you don't want to teach, then get out of the game. Don't think you're just at a higher level. I had a well-known college coach even told me one time, she says at her level, she says at the college level she was still teaching. Okay? She pointed out to me, we were at the camp one time, and she said, Mike, I got 230 kids out here, and almost every one of them has a batting coach and they got a pitching coach. How many of them have a defensive coach or a throwing coach? She says, I could line these 230 kids up here in short center field, and I'll bet more than half of them could not make a good throw to home plate. And I have a drill that I do on that I picked up a long time ago. We do on a fairly regular basis. I put an empty bucket on top of 3 softballs sitting at home plate. And I have my players put them in left field, center field, right field, wherever we want to work on. And I'll hit them a fly ball or ground ball, and they got to try and knock the bucket off the balls. I did that with my new camp players and stuff, some of my returning JV players out there last week. And I think 2 of them hit the bucket after about 2 tries. So let's see, I think there was 8 girls. So 16 tries, 2 times the bucket got knocked off the balls. We lose the responsibility. Sometimes coaches want to get away from the teaching side. They just want to be able to make out the lineup and win. Teach first, win later. And unfortunately what we're seeing now, Cindy talks about in her newsletter, I've talked about with other guests on the show, they want to get these kids into travel ball at 8 years old, 9 years old. They're not ready for it. Parents, they are not ready. I'm sorry. I don't care how good you think your kid is. 99% of them are not ready for travel ball at 8 or 9 years old. And I could just see a whole bunch of, well, my kid's that 1%. No, they're not. Trust me on this. I've seen some players that are very good athletes that love to get out and play, but by the time they got to high school, I had one that as a sophomore in high school was talking about being burned out already. You don't realize it. You don't realize what it's doing. Give them an opportunity to play another sport. If they absolutely don't want to, at some point, make sure they take a break. They take a month off. High school out here, I think most high school associations do. I know CIF, we got a dead period for all the sports except I think football and what is it? The girls volleyball I think is fall sport. The fall sports take their dead time usually a little different because they got to be back and ready to go in August. But for the rest of us, August is a dead period. There's a month goes by. I don't talk to my kids. We definitely don't do anything. So we don't get together. No softball, nothing. They get a month off. Give their bodies a chance to rest. If your child has been playing any sport, softball or otherwise, they've been doing that for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, trust me, 1 month off is not going to make a big difference in their game. They might be a little rusty the first practice or 2 coming back, but a lot of times they will actually look better. And I tell a bowling story about, and VJ encouraged me a couple weeks ago. He said, you're proving the point there. I got it in my head that I could go be a pro bowler one time because in 1 year I went from a 156 average up to 183. And the requirement to join the PGA was a 195 average for 2 years. Doesn't mean you're going to make any money. That's just the minimum required to join. I thought, oh boy, I'm right there. I can do it. I was bowling 7 leagues a week. And this is as an adult. I'm not a kid here. 7 leagues a week. Plus, I was doing the amateur tournament club on the weekend. I got tendonitis going down my arm or some sort of bursitis or something that hurt so bad I had to give it up. So a couple of years away from the game, when Diane and I got married, we were up in Las Vegas for our honeymoon, and I said, let's stop by the showboat. Let's go in and bowl a game. I haven't done that in so long. I picked up a house ball, just one of the balls they had on the shelf there, and I rolled a 500 series, which is about a 170 average per game. Now, that's nothing to brag about for most bowlers. And the normal, I mean, there's some people who love to have a 170, just like anything. But here I am. I haven't touched the ball in 3, 4, 5 years, rolled a 170 game. What somebody told me one time is the reason I was able to do that is anybody that's participated in a sport for any given amount of time, if you take a break from that sport, what do you remember when you come back to do it again? You remember all the good things that you were taught, how to do this right, how to do that right. That sort of now, talk about muscle memory or mental memory to go with it. It's sort of like some of the bad habits you had sort of filtered away. And now the good stuff is there, and suddenly you don't do too bad. Now, you might actually get a little bit worse before you start getting better again. But you can take that break. It's good for your body, folks. Parents, you want your child to get that college scholarship? You need to do this. And I'm sorry if you think I'm preaching at you, but it's true. There's too many people out there, too many of the experts that are pointing out the examples, example after example after example, and studies have shown this over and over again. We're pushing our kids too hard, too fast, and it's about winning. We make it about winning too early. Trust me, your 8 or 9-year-old, most 8 and 9-year-olds won't know what the score is. And try this, coaches, you young coaches out there, young parents. Maybe you're not the coach of your team. You're going to be out there this weekend playing some softball, let's say, or some Little League baseball. Tell you what you do about the 5th inning. Walk over to the dugout, say, kids, what's the score? Or pick out one or two, or pick out your kid. What's the score? And ask them. See if they know what the score is. Okay? Now, unless the coaches tell them every inning before they go in, oh, gee, we're down 3-0, they might not know. They're probably not going to know. We were getting our rear ends kicked one time when I was coaching 8 or 10-year-olds. I forget which it was. And because I had this one player, I coached her a couple different seasons at Downey Ponytail. And she come in, we were getting beat about 8-0 one game. And she came in, she was on third base, and when they got us out of the inning, we almost scored. And she comes running across and jumps on home plate, just like a little kid would, having fun, Coach, are we winning? Have you seen any of us touch that white thing you just jumped on there? No, we're not winning. We were down. It was, it's always, nobody likes to lose. I don't like to lose. But I also know there's things that are more important than winning or losing a single game. And that helped me remind me of that. Most 8, 9, 10-year-olds, they want to play. Let them play. Teach them some responsibility. Teach them the basic skills they need. As they get older, little by little, start teaching them more responsibility. How can we do that? We'll talk about that after the break. Coach Mike here. Kids in Sports on the Rant Radio Network. We'll be back after these messages.
are the Three Guys Rant.
With Arvin, Mike, and Phil.
Coming to you on the Rant Radio Network every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can call us at 855-69 The Three Guys.
It's not the Three Guys. This is why you should turn in, because one has Tourette's. The other one's illiterate.
You really should listen in. You never know what's going to happen.
855-69-3-GUYS. G-U-Y-S and the number 3, not the.
Faces for radio, voices for the deaf.
Look forward to talking to you.
Hey, I'm audio candy. I don't know about you guys.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Laza with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on rantradionetwork.com.
DM Narc Radio Show is now airing on the Rant Radio Network. You've heard the Three Guys Rant refer to us as the Clam Chowder Power Hour. Now we get to bring our New England humor over to Los Angeles. We'll be airing Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, and we'll cover everything from local to national politics and news. Guess what? We're uncensored too. I'm Dave. Join me and Nick Friday on the Rant Radio Network.
We're the Brothers Bear Podcast Live, and I'm your host, Sanj, and I'm always joined by
Edgar, Carlos Medrano, and this is a show where we talk about comics, movies, TV, video games, stand-up, music, and many more geeky things. Catch us live on Rant Radio Network on Mondays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
That's another commercial in the bag.
Right back here, the Rant Radio Network. For all your friends that might have missed the show here, you can always catch me live at the rantradionetwork.com and go to the shows. And by golly, they put me up on YouTube or something. I'm right there. I'm actually putting links on my website too. So anytime you miss a show, go back to kidsandsports.com and you can check it out. And you can not only hear me, you can see my beautiful face here, right? With my Yankee shirt. I got my Yankee shirt on today, okay? Best team money can buy. You know what, people, oh, my Yankees spend all the money. Yankees spend all the money. You got to know what you're buying. I think this year there's two teams that spend more money on the Yankees. Unfortunately, I think they're both here in Southern California, and neither one of them are doing anywhere near as well as the Yankees, although the Angels did beat the Yankees that last time pretty good. But there's a lot of, people badmouth the Yankees, but yet there's a lot of neat things that I've lost an interest to pro sports. If it weren't for my fantasy teams, I probably wouldn't watch near as much. But you look at one of them retired last year or the year before, but look what the Yankees had. They technically got another one with Robinson Cano now, but you had Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, and Mariano Rivera. You had three Yankees there that never wore another uniform in their pro careers. Okay? How much do you see that in pro sports? You know what? That's a little bit about team, and it's about responsibility. And I love it. I wanted to talk some more about team and point out Cindy Bristow's newsletter, but I also found another blog here on this Responsibility Project website that I thought was really very interesting. And it goes right to what I'm saying about teaching our kids to take responsibility and do the work. This article is June 28 of this year. Wow, Andrea Bennett. Obvious, nice blog here. Andrea, way to go. I ought to see if I can get a hold of her and get her on the show one of these weeks. Many concerned parents and educators know of the research, and she goes on talking about that just praising students for their intelligence doesn't build their confidence and motivation. And that actually identifying a student's inherent intelligence as the major cause of their achievement in school can be outright harmful. This was based on a study by a lady named Carol Dweck. So Dweck is an advocate for process praise, proposed praising kids for hard work, perseverance, and improvement. Don't just keep telling the kid, oh, you're smart, oh, you're good looking, oh, you're great, you're this. Let's take that into the sports. Oh, you're such a great hitter. Oh, you're a great pitcher. You're a great basketball shooter. You're a great quarterback, whatever it is. We don't know what kind of challenge your kid is at. Maybe you haven't faced any challenges or whatever. But if they get too much of this, it can be harmful. Why? Because they start, what do you want to say, that really they start believing the press clippings they say, and maybe they stop working. They stop getting better. And especially for younger kids, as you get older, every level up you go, the talent level around you becomes more equal to you or better. Your challenges are going to be tougher. Okay, sort of like they say in travel ball, but when you're a 16 under travel ball team, just about every kid there was a pitcher at one time or another. And when you get to college, every player there was a star on their high school team. And reminds me of a story I saw years ago about a minor league pitcher that got brought up to the majors. And, he was doing a great job in the minors and, was racking up good numbers and everything, was very hard to hit off of. And he came up and the first batter up just knocked the snot out of him, hit a home run or something. And I guess the guy went on, had a great night, and he just got clobbered. He says, I don't get it. He says, that one guy was the only guy that could hit off of me back in the minors. Well, guess what? Every guy they brought up was that one guy that could hit off you in the minors. Everybody, as you move up the level, the ones that are moving up with you are the other ones that are as good or better than you are. And you got to remember that. You got to keep working on improving. This is taking responsibility for your abilities. Don't just take them for granted. Back to being a team. Cindy had, in her newsletter here, had pointed out a really good thing, and this goes back to what we were saying and what I was saying earlier about players are getting too hung up on the showcases, and you've heard a couple of my guests over the last few weeks that really have a negative view of the showcases. Not the idea of the showcase, the idea to be able to get our kids seen by college coaches by itself inherently is not bad. That's a good idea, but what's happened now is it's become too important. Showing your talent, I'm going to hear on Cindy's 4 steps, showing versus winning. Showing your talent is a whole lot different than using your talent to win. Hear what she said there? Showing your talent is a whole lot different than using your talent to win. Where do we have a prime example of this every year? As a matter of fact, it's going to be coming up here in a couple of weeks. We have the Major League All-Star Game. What do we have before the All-Star Game? We have the Home Run Derby. We have the Home Run Derby. You get some of these guys that, hit a whole bunch of balls out of the park. Okay? They're doing it in a set-up situation. They're not facing Mariano Rivera with 2 outs in the 9th inning in a 1-run game. Right? To me, the reason we've lost our way in regards to the concept of team is because travel ball players no longer care about winning and fighting to win. They simply want to go somewhere and show somebody their skill. Sure, having college coaches see you play is important to you and to them, but there's a huge difference between showing your skills and using them to win the game. And Cindy goes on, she says, look, I'm not knocking travel ball. I don't want to, she loves travel ball on it, but this one aspect of it we need to take a look at. Throwing for time and making a critical throw in a game are two very different things. College coaches want to recruit winners. The minute we switch from playing softball games where the results actually mattered to playing for time, cramming in 1 million games in 2 days and simply showing our skills, we quit producing winners and we've cheated our young players out of the opportunity to really discover the meaning of competing. And believe me, if you get to play college softball, you better know how to compete. You better know how to compete. So listen what she's saying here. And I see this a lot with my players. They're going to this showcase, that showcase. I was helping a travel ball team a couple of years ago, and there were 2 players that came onto the team that already were playing in college, already had a scholarship. They wanted to give up their college scholarships and go play somewhere else. I sort of think the one player had sort of already lost her scholarship, but I don't think she was quite describing it that way. But I think we found later that's sort of what happened. And the coach, these two players asked the coach if they could, or the manager of the team, could they come on board and they'd help us out. And we had our young team said, okay, her thinking was the experience would help us out. We already had one college player coming back that we knew was going to come back to begin with to help us there. I had a little bit of a problem with her bringing these other two kids in later for two reasons. Number one, we had already told the players we had that they were our players, that we were going to grow with them, help them get better. Now all of a sudden, here come these two superstars to take their place. Sure, we want to put a better team on the field, but the reality, which I suspected, and I warned the manager of this, that these two players were only using the team to go to this one particular showcase tournament and get a new scholar, maybe get a chance to get a new scholarship. And I felt really bad because the manager sort of pressured me into making a move I would not have normally had made. And I felt bad because I even after I made it, I had a young player that I had taken to the team from the JV team I was coaching that year. And this kid worked really hard. And, she wasn't the most athletic person, but she worked really hard and had gotten better and was doing a pretty good job. And she was our catcher. And one of these other players was a catcher. So this one particular game, we went in and started the younger player. And I think part of it had to do with because the other player did not show up on time. But we had made our mind up that we were going to let this player deserve to start this game, and we put her in. She was doing a pretty good job. Now, she wasn't going to throw out a lot of runners stealing. I think she did throw one out if I remember correctly, but she had literally no pass balls and was doing a really good, one of the best jobs she had done behind the plate. The other player convinced the manager that there was a certain college coach coming to see her right then and needed to do it. And a rule of thumb in that kind of a tournament is that you would, if a player knew a coach was coming to see them, you would give them an opportunity to go in and do that. But because of the way this player had acted, I was hesitant to do so, even under the circumstances. I wanted to wait at least another inning. The manager said, we got to get her in. And I don't know that the coach even showed up, because I think I remember hearing the player was mad after because the coach didn't, or the coach showed up later or something. But this player, we put her in. This is a player that's already played a first year in college, and she was horrible. I don't know how many balls went by her. She didn't come close to throwing a runner out, stealing. She looked absolutely horrible. And I know she was better than that, but she was absolutely horrible. And somehow the comments came in, along the way, it was our fault that she was so bad. She took no responsibility for her actions. I never heard what happened to her after that. I know she didn't go to the team to help the team out at state like she had said she was going to do. She was there for her own benefit, not about team. It was about her. So I don't know if she got another scholarship somewhere else. I don't know if she got another opportunity. I don't know what happened to her after. I didn't hear. I was not involved with that team anymore short time after that. I did have a parent come up to me and apologize at another tournament we were at a month or so later, because the parents were they were all about themselves at that time. They weren't looking at team. We need to get back to teaching our players responsibility. We need to get back to teaching them team. Coach Mike here. We're going to take a quick break. Be back after these messages.
Hey, bro, this is a good game. You know what would make it better?
What, bro?
A michelada.
A michelada? What's a michelada?
A michelada is somewhere in the middle of a Mexican Bloody Mary and a Mexican margarita.
Oh, I got you covered, bro.
You got a cup in your pocket?
No, sir. I got my pocket-sized michelada. Mucho macho michelada.
Pocket size?
Pocket size, so you can take it with you anywhere you go.
Where'd you get that at?
At the nearest convenience store, and you can also buy it at muchomachomichelada.com.
You know what would make it better? After we get drunk, if they had a line we could call.
We can call their drunk line. You can leave a message and then log on to the site and listen to your stupidity afterwards.
What's that number?
It's 855-MICHE-69.
What's that number again?
855-MICHE-69.
Awesome. Mucho macho michelada.
The experts know that for pastry, Baker's Bodega has it all. Exclusive brands like Westco Bankmart, Satin Ice, and Pastry Pride. One-on-one day seminars for cake decorating and gelatin art. So for our service, wide range of ingredients and supplies, and for the low prices, Baker's Bodega has it all. But you don't need to be an expert. Baker's Bodega, 7869 Paramount Boulevard in Pico Rivera. Come, we're waiting for you.
TheTicketSurgeon.com. Reach us at 855-WIN-4199.
Did you get caught speeding, texting while driving, or doing anything else you weren't supposed to do?
Give us a call. Don't miss work. Don't lose out on the money. Don't get any more points. What about your insurance? Let us fight for you. TheTicketSurgeon.com at 855-WIN-4199.
Welcome to the Monster Marketing Group, your one-stop shop for all your marketing needs. Anything you need to make that marketing and advertising campaign stand out, we're your people. Concepts, design, production, social media, anything that you can dream up, we're going to make happen for you. And we can do it in a very quick turnaround. Please give us a call at 888-49-MONSTER.
Thank you for joining me today. Coach Mike here. Kids and Sports on the Rant Radio Network. I'll share a little story. You've probably heard this. You've probably seen this email over the years. That's one neat thing about getting old. You can bring stuff back and you'd be surprised how many younger people hadn't heard it before. This is a story about 4 people named Everybody, Somebody, Anybody, and Nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought that anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. Think about that. If you didn't catch all that, look it up. If you just put in everybody, somebody, anybody, nobody, you'll get that on the internet. How many times do we put ourselves in this situation? And we allow to get it. We're either waiting for somebody else to do something, or we're blaming somebody else for not doing something. And we wonder, why aren't we getting the job done? Why isn't our team better? I've actually had, and you heard my one guest a couple weeks ago, I've had coaches say, I would rather have a team of the players that nobody wants than to play a bunch of superstars because they're high maintenance. Because there's still coaches out there in their effort to win. They want to grab the best player right away without regard a lot of times to whether that's a really good team player or not. If it's a good team player, and I've had some really good team players that are very talented, but they were very team-oriented. And they took responsibility for their actions, and they didn't blame their teammates for failures. Matter of fact, they were pretty good about encouraging their teammates. They were pretty good about encouraging their teammates to help them succeed, to help them do better. Remember, there's another old saying, okay, I'm old. What can I say? I don't look at me. Look, not bad for my age. That a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Well, the same goes for a team. The team is only as strong as its weakest player. Now, a lot of coaches choose to just park that weakest player on the bench until they get mad and quit. But I think the best coaches manage to incorporate a practice that doesn't take from the starters, from your A team, so to speak, and yet helps improve the other players up to a higher level. What if you're looking right now? Look at Major League Baseball right now. I just had another player go on the DL again. A Maverick, 2 players this week went on the DL for my fantasy teams. You got to have other players. What do you do when these guys get hurt? And I hate to sound like a broken record, but look how well the Yankees are doing this year, and they've had 4 of their best players on the DL the whole season, pretty much. Cheater has not played a game yet this year. Granderson, I don't think, has played a game this year. Teixeira was on the DL, came back, went back on the DL again. I think he's done for the season. And who else was out? There's one more. Was it one of the pitchers? There was one more player. Oh, A-Rod. No, A-Rod is maybe back in time for the playoffs. Is he going to be at his normal level that we expect from him when coming back at that point? I know he's going to work real hard to try to get there, but I sort of suspect that he's near that point where he's going to retire. His body's starting to break down, and you can only do so much. At some point, you got to say, I've had enough. But the Yankees, last I looked, were still in, I think, second place. They were in first place for the whole first part of the season with a bunch of players like that the announcers were describing as picked off a scrap heap or, what do they say, rerun players or whatever. Now, how is that? Maybe it's because they are a team. Maybe it's because they take a responsibility. I know there's a responsibility of doing the best job we can because they got a whole bunch of people in the stands paying to see players. Of course, there's fewer. I don't know. I was watching the Yankee game on TV the other day, and I was surprised that on a weekend afternoon game how many empty seats there were. Now, could it be because certain stars are not there and people just don't want to come and see those stars? Maybe. Cindy points out in her newsletter, I don't know if I mentioned this in the first hour or not, but I think it's pretty important. Within the youth softball world, we seem to have lost our patience with teaching and development and have turned towards an insistence on performance. We've lost the concept of young players needing time and patience and teaching in order to develop their skills and talents, and yet that's what the younger age group programs are all about. The younger age programs are for teaching players the skills they'll need when they get older and not for demanding those young players suddenly have those skills without going through any reasonable learning curve. Too many parents and coaches have lost patience with development and see every single error or delay in progress as a blockade to that golden ticket of a college scholarship. How many players doing travel ball right now have spent any significant time on a bench as a substitute player? I know there's some, but I bet I'd be willing to bet you there's fewer now because you got more people jumping teams. Now, maybe with the economy, as some of those players have gotten out of travel because of the economy, because they couldn't afford it. But so many players jump teams from team to team to team, trying to find the team that sees their son or daughter the same way that the parents see their son or daughter, or that they want to see their son or daughter. They want that golden ticket. And I go back and I always love and always will love that NCAA commercial. 75% of our student athletes go pro in something other than sports. We forget that part. Does that mean we should get rid of sports altogether? No, it doesn't. Sports is a good teacher of many valuable lessons for our kids. It provides opportunities for kids that maybe can't get there otherwise. In some other countries, Major League Baseball and maybe some other sports too. Major League Baseball is sort of that college scholarship for their players. You see the young player with the Dodgers right now, Yasiel Puig, very talented young man. Sometimes it looks like he gets a little cocky out there. I think he's going to probably learn a few lessons about that. But very talented young man. He's getting a whole new life now that he may never have experienced before. Sports has those opportunities, but keep in mind that a lot of those stories that we hear about, like VJ Stanley told us, those are the exceptions, not the rules. How many people are willing to send me an email at coachmike@kidsinsports.com and tell me about how your kid didn't get a college scholarship? About how your son or daughter played for the best travel team there, or they had the best hitting coach, or whatever it was. But even with all that, they still didn't get that college scholarship. How many hitting coaches out there, or pitching coaches, or any other skills coach in any sport, how many of you are out there that will turn a player down at some point because that just wasn't what their gift was? I'm not saying right off the bat, you never know until you try it, right? I'm not saying don't take your kid to a private coach because it's not worth it. I'm not telling you that at all. But if you're with my daughter one time, we were going to a pitching coach. I want to say we were going to him for almost a year. When she was not making progress, which probably should have left before. But it wasn't until we tried out for travel ball and she had 5 teams tell her, come back when you're faster, that I woke up. That was my responsibility as a parent. That's where I can have some responsibility. Helping my daughter with her success is being aware of those situations. Ultimately, it's up to her. Once we changed coaches, she improved. Why? Because she was willing to do some work. Did she want to do enough work to make her absolutely the best pitcher she could have been? No, probably not. And she had other things she wanted to do. And early on, that was a little frustrating for me too. I'll be honest, it was a little frustrating. Jessica, you're doing really well here, and yet you're not doing the drills as often as you should. How much better could she have been? She still did a pretty darn good job. But ultimately, that was her responsibility there. And if she wasn't willing to do that extra, then at some point, she paid, if there was a price to pay, she paid that price because she obviously was only going to reach a certain level. And you know what? She's okay with that. She's where she wants to be right now. She got her AA degree in early childhood development. She's working at a daycare, which is what she wanted to do. And she had some fun playing softball along the way. But how many coaches that are charging you parents, $25 or more for a half-hour lesson, you've been going to that same coach for a year and you're not seeing any progress in your child's performance. And you're still going, taking a kid every week, paying the $25, sometimes more than once a week. And it's somewhere along the way, either you or the coach doesn't say, you know what, you need to try something different. Or maybe you need to stop. Maybe you just need another coach. A friend of mine says you should change coaches every 6 months, regardless. Now, I wouldn't say that. If you're making progress, I'm saying if that coach is doing well and you're moving up the ranks, I'd stay right there. Some very good coaches out there, but not every coach is good for every kid. I don't care if it's the best hitting, pitching, shooting coach, quarterback coach, whatever it is. I don't care if it's the best coach there is. There's going to be some players that don't respond to that coach. You need to recognize that and make adjustments. Coach Mike here, Kids in Sports on the Rant Radio Network. We'll be back for our final segment in just a minute.
We're the Brothers Bear Podcast Live, and I'm your host, Sanch, and I'm always joined by
Edgar, Carlos Mandrano, and this is a show where we talk about comics, movies, TV, video games, stand-up, music, and many more geeky things. Catch us live on Rant Radio Network on Mondays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
That's another commercial in the bag.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on rantradionetwork.com.
DM Narc Radio Show is now airing on the Rant Radio Network. You've heard the three guys Rant refer to us as the Clam Chowder Power Hour. Now we get to bring our New England humor over to Los Angeles. We'll be airing Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, and we'll cover everything from local to national politics and news. Guess what? We're uncensored too. I'm Dave. Join me and Nick Friday on the Rant Radio Network.
3 balls, 2 strikes, the pitch. Swing it.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
Coach Mike here, Kids in Sports on the Rant Radio Network. My final rant segment, talking about responsibility, talking about team. What are we doing to teach our kids about commitment, about being a part of a team, about being responsible for their success? Now, maybe I'm preaching to the choir a little bit, but you know what? I'm going to keep preaching because I've seen enough of the opposite going on, and I'm not putting a judgment on parents because I know the parents, in many cases, are very well intentioned. They think they're doing the right thing, but too many times they sort of, let's put it, the parents sometimes fall into the same trap. They talked about earlier about our kids when they get their first hitting coach, their first team coach, and that coach says, we do this way, we'll do some base running this way, we're going to bat this way, and they fall in love with that, and they don't recognize that there's other ways to get the job done. And I've seen some parents that fall into that trap. They got a limited amount of space of information from a certain space, from a certain angle, and they take that ball and they run with it. God bless them. I love the fact that they're willing to do that. Kids in Sports is about helping you see that there's more than one way to get the job done. And it also maybe as part of my message out there, teach first, win later, but maybe as part of the message out there is we change the goal that we're eyeing. We change the goal that we want to focus on. And I'm not saying don't try to get that athletic scholarship. If your son or daughter wants to play their sport in college, I'm not saying don't have that as a goal. What I am saying is there's other things, there's other steps to getting there, that if we eye those goals first, we'll have a better chance of reaching the last one. And sort of what Cindy said in her newsletter, sort of what some of the blogs said that we talked about today, that we're taking the eyes off the preliminary goals that need to be accomplished, the skills, the paperwork almost, if you will, that needs to be filled out before we're going to get that final contract. Okay? Just think of it as a businessman who wants to get this $1 million contract, and the company, the client says, I need you to fill this out. I need you to fill this out first, and you need some references, and you need whatever it is to prove to me you're going to get the job done that we're going to spend this $1 million on. And the businessman down here can only see the $1 million contract and can't see I need to fill out this paperwork properly to get that $1 million. And that's sort of what a lot of parents and a lot of coaches, I'm fortunate as coaches that do it too, we're getting the prize on either we get too focused on winning a title of some sort, or we get our eyes focused on getting that scholarship, and we take our eyes off of what needs to be done to get there. And then when it doesn't happen, coaches, for you, in your case, if you're one of these coaches that pride yourself on getting players scholarships, and maybe you've been very successful so far, but now maybe you've gotten just a little bit too confident or too cocky even. And maybe you've taken your eye off some of the things, and all of a sudden you're not having the success ratio you had at one time. Maybe it's time to readjust how you're doing things. Maybe you need to take a step back and take a look at it. There are a number of coaches out there that do a great job. They've built up relationships with the college coaches. They know how to teach. They teach the players what they need to learn. And I would like to be like that. I want to always be teaching my players how to be successful. Not just how to get a college scholarship, how to be successful, period. How to be able to react to adversity. How to be able to make adjustments when things aren't going your way. And what's that biggest adjustment that you need to be prepared for? Maybe you don't get your college scholarship you thought you were going to get. Now what do? Now you're all brokenhearted. Son or daughter's all brokenhearted and all mad at the world because they weren't taught about how to deal with adversity. So now they choose not to even try to go to college at all. Now, how successful are they going to be? Do we ever stop to think about that? No, we don't. We don't want to, because that's not what we want. That's not where we want to be. That doesn't feel good to be thinking, what if? So it'd be like me going out and spending my whole paycheck, get all the money I can all week on Powerball tickets, and I know I'm going to win that $150 million or whatever it might be for a given week. What was it, a couple months ago, $600 million? Oh, I know I'm going to win that. What happens when I don't? Am I prepared to be able to go on? Now I spent all that money I had, just knowing I was going to win that Powerball, and I didn't win it. Now what do I got to do? What are your players going to do? What happens if they get injured? I got a friend of mine had a tryout with the Rams. Sometime I'll get my big friend Big Jack on the show. He's told his story. He had a chance to have a tryout for a pro football team until he had a little bit of an accident on the road. And there went that chance. No more opportunity for football. Now, maybe Jack was able to succeed better because that wasn't his only goal in life. That wasn't his Powerball ticket. And I know there are players out there now and their parents that say, you know what, we're going to try to play. We'd like to play in college. We want to keep playing. We like the sport. But we also realize that might not be the only way. And you know what? More of those players, I think, are the ones that have the better grades because they know they need to have other opportunities open to them. They want to have the ability maybe to get an academic scholarship to help them. They've got other things in mind. They don't put it all on one place to go, and they're willing to work for what they want to do. They're willing to work harder in more avenues and be willing to take success as it comes. Are you one of those players? Are you one of those coaches? I hope you are. I like to help my players succeed, whatever their goals might be. And I have more players who don't plan to play in college than I do that do. So what kind of a coach am I going to be to them if everything I do is geared for getting them an athletic scholarship when they have no intention of even trying to get one? Some of them just don't have the physical capabilities of being that college athlete. I had a young lady playing this last year. She was on JV a year ago. She had a chance to be on varsity this last season as a senior. Her dad had an injury at work. Had been injured at work. And he needed her help at home. We were short players early on in the season because of a few injuries. We had a few great issues on a couple players. So she stuck out. She was a part of our team, and she was going to be there for us. Now, before even the first game, before we even got to the first game, everything changed. We had enough players on the varsity. JV was having some issues, so she came to me as a senior, and she said, Coach, is it okay if I just go play with JV because they're going to need some help, and I know I'm not going to play very much on varsity? Absolutely. So she went down there for a couple of weeks, so they got some players back. They solved some of the great issues. She came to me, she said, Coach, I'm not a quitter, but my dad really needs me at home. We've got bigger issues at home, and so I think I'm going to have to stop. I know I'm not going to – she wasn't going to play in college. If she was 6'1", this kid would be playing in college, I guarantee you. She had the attitude, she had the heart, but she was about 4'4". I don't think she was 5 foot tall. I think a kid saying 4'4". I know she was under 5 foot. And she wasn't super fast. She wasn't no athletic specimen. So high school is going to be the end of her athletic career. Okay? She had a very good awareness of who she was, what she wanted to do in life. She's going to be a lawyer. She wants to be a lawyer someday. She knows where she's going, and sports helped her to enjoy part of it. And I know she was also an inspiration to some of the other players on the team. And you know what? It had nothing to do with getting an athletic scholarship. So let's help our kids learn to take responsibility for their successes. Let's give them multiple options. Let's don't just put them in a pigeonhole and say, here's where you got to go. And give them some decision-making room. Let them have some input. Even starting at 10 and 12 years old, you can start teaching your children how to make decisions and how to take responsibility for their success. You know what? I'll bet they'll be more successful. One more last group that I want to comment on today. We're talking about responsibility. I want to just a word to the coaches out there. Even if you're not a Bible person or you don't go to church much, I encourage you to go find a Bible and read Matthew 18:6, coaches. Matthew 18:6. God has a warning for anybody that hurts kids. And we all know about Jesus said, let the children come unto me. And isn't that nice? And we like that. It's a nice sounding verse, very pleasant, very positive. But God also has a warning. Those that stop those kids, those that hurt those kids, it'd be better for them if they were drowned in the deepest ocean. I get disappointed. Although it seems like almost a monthly basis, we have coaches that don't realize their number one responsibility out there is to teach, to lead, to set an example for, and to help our children. And when I see them violate that and they end up on TV or they're going to jail for hurting those little ones, that makes my heart ache. Thanks for joining me on Kids in Sports. I'll be back next Tuesday. Tune in to the Rant Radio Network for many of the other fine shows we have here. Have a great week.